What is happening with South Africa's intelligence service? Is it run by a rogue and corrupt leader? In the second segment of the show, the country has said its final farewell to Mama Winnie Madikizela-Mandela. We look back at how political parties responded to the occasion of the death of this struggle icon. A very good morning to you and a warm welcome. The Politbureau is now in session. I'm Duncan. But first, we begin here. Arthur Fraser, the Director General at the National Intelligence Agency, has been taken to court by Dr. Setlo Mamaru Dintwe, the Inspector General of Intelligence. Now, according to a report by investigative journalists at Amabungane, Fraser is trying to block Dintwe's investigation into allegations that he established a parallel intelligence structure called the Principal Agent Network, and in the process squandering over R1 billion of public money. Now, these allegations first emerged in Jacques Pauw's book, The President's Keepers. Joining me to discuss the state of intelligence services in our country, I'm joined by Jane Duncan, a journalism professor at the University of Johannesburg, and Mr. Zolile Ngcakani, a former Inspector General of Intelligence. Well, let's get this show on the road then. Thank you both for coming through. Much appreciated. Mr. Ngcakani, I want to start with you. You're a former Inspector General. What do you make of the allegations against Arthur Fraser that he is trying to, well, he has harassed and has even intimidated the Inspector General, the current Inspector General? Do you think, first of all, that these allegations are credible? And if so, what could be the reason for him trying to do so?
Yeah, thank you, Gavi, for inviting me to this interview. I certainly cannot speak with any certainty about whether the allegations are correct or not. But what I can say, I have confidence in the oversight system that we have put in place, that it will be able to deal with this problem. It's unfortunate that now it has gone to the courts. And I'm just wondering because, as you know, the system that we have for oversight over intelligence starts with the Joint Standing Committee for Intelligence. The Office of the Inspector General supports that. And the Office of the Inspector General is empowered to carry out investigations to make sure that the intelligence is operating within the Constitution, within the law, and also in terms of its own policies. How we have come to this point is very difficult for me to say. But I can say that the entities that are there to ensure that intelligence operates within the confines of the Constitution are in place as far as I know.
Prof. Duncan, let's bring you in. You've written extensively on intelligence matters in the country. In your view, is there any other oversight body on intelligence that has the power of the Office of the Inspector General to rein in rogue spies? You've already heard what the former Inspector General here is saying, that that office, in the main, its sole responsibility is to investigate complaints against intelligence structures.
Yes, good morning, and thank you for the invitation. There are two main oversight bodies when it comes to intelligence matters: the Office of the Inspector General and the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence, which is a multi-party parliamentary body. Now, the JSCI doesn't necessarily have investigative capacity that actually rests with the IGI, and to a very large extent, the Joint Standing Committee actually relies on the Inspector General to blow the whistle on significant intelligence failures that have actually happened in the intelligence services. So I would argue that the Inspector General's office is possibly even more primary to the oversight role than the JSCI is, because the JSCI in certain circumstances may not even have the capacity to get to the bottom to problems as they arise in the intelligence services. This is why we need to be concerned about what's happening at the IGI's office.
You basically telling me, Prof, that that institution is so critical that it perhaps is the only institution that can gain the kind of access that the Office of the Inspector General has in order to investigate matters that are brought against intelligence services. So when you then hear stuff like this, that the person who occupies that office is being intimidated and harassed, how important is it that the occupant of that office stands his ground in order to ensure that the truth comes out and that that office is run properly?
He absolutely needs to stand his ground, because this is not some arcane conflict taking place that affects few people. It affects each and every person in our country. And the reason why I say that is I believe that over the past 10 years, under the presidency of Jacob Zuma, we've seen the emergence of possibly the most significant intelligence failure of recent times, which is the failure to get to the bottom of the state capture project. And all of us now are living with the legacy of that. We have a massive hole in our public finances. We have extremely troubled state institutions at the moment, including in the State Security Agency. And we have a legacy of corruption that we need to get beyond. We've seen a rise in organised crime. We're all affected by that. And if we don't have an effective IGI that is actually troubleshooting problems around intelligence failures as they arise, then this is the kind of mess that all of us are going to have to pay the price for. What sets the IGI's office apart from other state statutory bodies that protect and promote human rights and ensure accountability, the Chapter 9 institutions I'm thinking of there, is that while the IGI is a creature of the Constitution, it isn't included in Chapter 9 of the Constitution that has very explicit requirements for what constitutes independence. There's administrative independence, financial independence, and institutional independence. And those kinds of those forms of independence, I think, still have to be elaborated to an extent in terms of how the IGI actually functions, and that is what is at issue here at the moment.
Mr. Ngcakani, Arthur Fraser is reported to have revoked the security clearance of Dr. Dintwe. How does this impact on the work of the Inspector General?
You know, our system, it requires that all of us, because the intelligence service is responsible for both intelligence collection as well as counterintelligence. Now, in terms of counterintelligence, the Director General of Intelligence is the one who looks into issues of vetting. And once vetted, that means that you must stay vetted. The intelligence community has to continuously monitor whether your security competence is still valid. So it's a job that the law allows, it's legal, that the Director General is responsible for that. Now, how, and let me explain also one thing, that the oversight function does not stand alone. It is part of the entire government system. We, as OGI office, JSCI, the OGI office is responsible to assisting the minister in ensuring that the intelligence community operates properly. So we have a responsibility as the office to report to the minister, to ensure and to look, and so the minister also operates the executive who looks at, so they will determine, if Fraser is operating as a rogue, the minister would be knowing that. And the cabinet would be knowing that. And they have measures which they would take should, for instance, the Office of the Inspector General write a report to the minister and indicate that there is a problem here. The intelligence SSA is not operating within the bounds of the law. Then it is the minister, the executive arm of government, that then takes care of that.
Prof. Duncan, by its very nature, the work of intelligence services is secretive. How do you see the fight between Arthur Fraser and Mr. Setlo Dintwe playing out in court, given the secretive nature of this institution?
Yes, well, it's very possible that court may have to hear some of these matters in a closed session. I hope that that will be kept to the bare minimum because as far as I'm concerned, there's excessive secrecy in relation to intelligence matters. There's a whole range of issues that actually rightfully should be made public, and those relate to policy and strategy of the intelligence services. And in fact, there was a commission of inquiry that resulted from an investigation that Mr. Ngcakani undertook when he was former IGI. He played an excellent role, in fact, in exposing intelligence abuses at the time during the succession battle between Thabo Mbeki and Jacob Zuma. And that resulted in a commission of inquiry, the Matthews Commission of Inquiry, that made a number of recommendations about a range of issues that set the ground rules, if you like, for how the intelligence services should operate, that should be made public, and those actually haven't been made public. Can I just also say, in relation to the revoking of the security clearance of the IGI, one cannot have an institutional situation where security clearance is used as a censorship device by the very institution that the IGI is meant to be a watchdog over. That is a very clear constitutional problem. And in fact, the JSCI should be playing much more of a role in ensuring the security clearance arrangements for the IGI. And that's actually provided for in the Intelligence Services Oversight Act. A regulation can be issued with the concurrence of the JSCI around issues relating to the security clearance of the IGI, which means that the JSCI should actually call the shots on this particular issue. So I don't accept the reasons that Arthur Fraser has given for the revoking of the security clearance of the IGI. Also, given that it's related to the fact that he's meant to have received classified documents from political parties, from parliamentary parties. Now, that is the job of the IGI. What sets the IGI apart from all other state watchdog entities is that it and it alone has untrammeled access to classified documents. And it's not for the Director General to control the access, the information flow around those classified documents, because inevitably the Director General, even the best Director General in the world, will be tempted to control the flow in a way that only certain classified documents get to the OIGI and not others.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, but I think we should not run ahead of ourselves. These are allegations, and therefore the process of verifying these is to go on. And I think that, for me, the other processes should have also taken place, because the reason for revoking the security clearance, that needs to be established. There are other reasons that may be responsible for that. We are assuming that, because that's what the report says, that there's a rogue element and it's trying to stop investigations of their rogueness. Therefore, that's why they are using this. But that's an assumption. And I think we should give the processes time to take care of this problem.
All right. Yeah. On that note, thank you very much to the both of you for having come through. Truly appreciate having made time here this morning. After the break, Mama Winnie Madikizela-Mandela may be gone, but she's unlikely to be forgotten.